Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of the Liefx or Brody podcast, whatever you want to call it. You guys are here and listening and enjoying the content, and I really appreciate that. If you are watching on YouTube, reminder, you can go over to Spotify and watch there. And if you're on Spotify and you want to get on the discussion, throw some comments out. YouTube's the place to do that. So get on over there, whichever platform you're on. I'd appreciate if you hit the follow button or the subscribe button. I don't want to delay this intro anymore because on today's episode, we have the godfather, or just the father, and no other, just he is the father of Rocket League. You all know the name. You saw the title anyways. It's Randy Gibbons. What's going on, Gibbs?
Don't ever call me that again. That was weird.
That's a fun thing that we've discussed before is that, didn't you say even your wife just calls you Gibbs?
Yeah. My wife does not call me Randy. She hates the name. I hate the name. There's only like my family at home and like two of my friends that I knew when I was like really young actually call me Randy. Everyone else calls me Gibbs. So it's not just a like in-game name. It's a it's a life.
It's your
style.
It's like you're like Cher or Seal. You're just the one. You should legally change it just to one name.
Just Gibbs.
What's my favorite thing is you pointed out. Is that your name is I guess just another way to say a horny monkey.
Yep, horny monkeys, plural. I guess. Yeah, it's.
Randy Gibbons.
I don't know what my dad was thinking because my dad was named the same. That he named
the exact same name.
Yeah, and I'm like, did you not understand that? Maybe that was before Austin Powers came out, when it got popularized. I don't know.
Where's the junior?
Yeah.
You didn't get a junior. No,
our middle names are different because he didn't like Junior, but he liked his name, and I'm like, Dad, you made some mistakes. One having me, dude.
You could have been a junior. Okay, I want to start off. Well, I guess we already started the episode, but I want to start off the podcast with on a right foot. I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain about Windows though, so it's something we can all relate to. You know what? Okay. What was really bothersome is that Windows and do you have what we all have? Put them in the comments. I want to know all the gripes with Windows. We'll see. Maybe they'll come by and they'll fix them all. It just randomly turns on my screensaver sometimes. So I was sitting here, I booted my because I have my screensaver turned off, right? I just don't have it. And I forgot that like yesterday it started doing it again. And I was sitting here, I booted my PC and I'm waiting to get on to start this with you. And I'm just sitting there for like 5 minutes before I realized, okay, this is a long boot. It had been actually fast. The screensaver went on. It was just a black screen. So I was just sitting here for 5 minutes. What's the most recent Windows problem you've had? Probably audio, I assume.
Yeah, Windows to me is mostly just microphone stuff where they're like, hey, we won't control it through other devices or we won't let, and all that. And they just decide to change volumes because they think they know better. And I'm like, please just leave it alone. I tried to choose your options. It doesn't work half the time. And I'm just
also, how the hell do we not have the ability to have our video feed go to two sources yet?
Yeah, I don't.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, because that's the thing with like our cameras with like OBS. Like if you tried to like do virtual cam, and then tried to also just do the normal camera, then you get the 4 box and it's all green. It looks weird. Because that was a problem for Spaceman actually on the Day One show last week. He's like, "Why is this happening?" Because he didn't have to do that for any of his other shows. They did it like a different way.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, "Oh, it's because you're using the wrong camera." Yeah, it's a whole thing. And I'm just like, "Yeah, who knows? It's 2023. Get your act together, Windows." Please.
That's all right. One day AI will fix it all for us too.
Please, one day.
Okay, I got to. I want to find out because one of the questions you always ask me if we're just chatting, what have you been playing? I know you've been playing Zelda, and I want to hear your glowing review of it.
Well, you know how
you get the full stage for this one.
All right, so. To preface this, I knew it was going to get 10s and all that stuff. Like, that's always going to happen because it's Zelda. It's dumb. Because any Nintendo game just immediately gets 10s. Like, even like Mario Kart. You know how lazy Mario Kart is? Like, sure, the race in itself is pretty good. There's like nothing to that game outside of Grand Prix. Everyone's like,
nothing can be worse though than Pokemon and how lazy.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started on Pokemon. How are you the biggest franchise in the world? Make the most money, and you put out that shit? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's
Hire
unacceptable.
some talented people over there, Game Freak. What is like? They don't care. They just don't care. I don't understand.
It's
And it's like
unacceptable.
I still like Pokemon because for my kid, I want him to enjoy it and all that
Okay.
stuff. But it's like, but I don't enjoy the games though. I'm like, these are just like terrible.
Yeah.
But Zelda, so Breath of the Wild, like 7 out of 10 maybe. Not a very good game.
Okay.
It's very open spaces. Not
Hold on. We need your scale. We need your sense of scale though, because for me, if I think
Okay.
a game's like super mid, like buy it if you want, if you're interested. It's
So
like a
7
5.
out of 10 is like a game critic.
Okay.
5,
Okay. Because I put
right?
a 5
Like,
as like a.
Sure, like I think we're on the same page.
Okay.
Like I would say, like that's just an average game.
Okay.
So that would be 5, I guess.
Fair enough.
5
On
years.
our scale. Okay.
Tears of the Kingdom, I've completed it, and all that stuff. I would give it like on your scale, maybe like a 7.5. Then, like it is definitely an improvement,
Okay.
but it's still like the combat shit. Like it's terrible. Like the weapon, like now you can fuse things. Like okay, sure, I'm just gonna add a spiky thing on every single sword.
It just sounds like Gibbs hasn't fused 3 pitchforks together and seen the true value of the game.
And I'm like, but what's the point? So here's my problem. So when I play games to either beat them or to enjoy the gameplay. A plus, like if I'm in a game that is like, here's all these options, right? Where you can do whatever you want. Like I don't like this one box. Bitching about
Sorry, okay, I'll
but,
come back.
all right, but here's like, all right. So I have all these options, right, to do something. I am going to find the easiest way to do it, and that is the way I'm going to do it because you gave me all these options. So why would I choose anything but the easiest way to do something? Because it's not like the other options are fun.
You're a min-maxer.
Like they're not. So it's like the entire vehicle creation stuff is like barely used in that game. Like unless you really go out of your way to use it when you really don't need to, what's the point? And they don't give you any rewards that are meaningful in that entire game. The only thing you get is gear. Once in a while, you just go to a shop and buy the gear that you actually need, and you don't have to worry about any of the like other crap. Like Korok seeds. So I see this guy. He wants help to his friend that's a million miles away. They conveniently place all these vehicle things. Of course, I'm going to use those. But if it takes longer than a minute, I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Like, I'm out.
I don't need this Korok seed. There's no point in doing this. It's not like it's fun doing that. It's just clunky because the vehicle stuff isn't that great. And the only other time you use vehicles is when you glide, and they're like, all right, sweet. We have this awesome glider. Let's use that. Hey, but guess what? Like, if you're on it for more than like a half a minute, it's going to expire because we don't want you having too much fun in our Zelda. And I'm like, what the fuck is the point of that? I don't understand. Like, why would you delete my the only vehicle that's actually fun? Like, no, you can't have too much fun here. Let's delete it. So, like, the game itself, like, if you like to explore and just see stuff, but not get any, like, tangible benefit outside of that, great. Fantastic game. But if you want tangible benefits, it's like, I found this cool, like, rock wall. What's behind it? It's another fucking broadsword. That's like 13 power. Who cares?
I guess the idea is that because the weapon break, that it kind of adds like to the exploration. But I guess maybe it feels a bit
enemy
artificial.
has a weapon, right? So if you do break your weapon, then you're just gonna pick up his weapon, and then you'll fuse it there. Like you don't necessarily need another broadsword. And then there was a sword I found in the game. So I was doing a little exploring towards the end of the game, and I went down this hole and all this stuff, and I was like, So I got a sword. It was called the Unbreakable Sword. I guess in the first Zelda or Ocarina of Time, there was a like unbreakable sword. It still breaks. It even says in the description it's unbreakable. It still breaks. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, what's the point? Sure, it has more attack power, but like that doesn't really matter in Zelda because it's a baby game and they don't make it hard. So all right. So here's a little bit of spoilers in case you're worried about this. It'll be about 1 minute. It's not huge spoilers.
If you
not
have,
huge spoilers.
if you have it, I'll put my hand
very
up.
minor.
If you're watching, if you're listening in your car, you're kind of screwed right now. But we've given you long enough warning to skip ahead.
All right. So very minor spoilers. You go down into the basement, the like dungeon, the depths it's called. And if you get hit down there, then you lose your hearts permanently until you leave. So unless you have like food that is a certain special food, right?
Okay.
So I was lazy and I was like, I'm gonna go to Ganon because I was like, I think I'm done with this game. So I'm gonna go down there, and you have to go through like a trial. You basically have to go through this whole like area,
to
multiple
prove you're
ways
worthy.
and stuff. So I didn't have any of the food because I didn't feel like cooking because cooking's annoying.
I never. The first one I never cooked.
So I was down to 2 hearts when I got down to like before the boss. There's like a pre-boss that's like an enemy wave thing where you have to fight multiple waves, and I did it with 2 hearts because it's not very difficult.
Really?
And so like, then I was like, all right, now I'll cook. So I was like, I should probably cook something, and then I fought Ganon or whatever or whoever, you know.
Okay.
The thing that happens at the end. But it's like, so spoilers done.
Okay, hand us up if you're watching. You're good.
But so the game is like, so I did complete the game, which means at least that has value because a lot of games I won't complete. But it was just like, they don't give you any good rewards, and then like the only rewards are like go to a shrine and get more health or stamina based on that. But every shrine that is easily found, like at the very least, feel so babyish. They're like, here's a tough puzzle. The puzzle is that one item we dropped on the floor next to you. Use that. And I'm like, there was literally one puzzle, and this isn't really spoilers, but you go into a thing. It's dark. There's a flashlight next to you. You pick it up, and you walk through a maze that has like 3 turns in it, but there's spikes on the wall, so if you didn't have a flashlight, you wouldn't have seen them. And then you find a key, and then you do it, and that's it. And I'm like,
yeah,
I just wasted 5 minutes doing that. And it's like,
it doesn't. Yeah. So my problem with a lot of just games in general. Now there could be, and I'll keep this in mind, in consideration that the nostalgia effect obviously is going to play a bit into this, but I also do feel like old RPGs, because game design had been less figured out at that point of like how do you subtly guide a player in a certain direction kind of thing with level design, is like it actually felt like I felt like I wanted to explore these worlds a lot more as a kid. Like I always go to Oblivion as the example for me, and obviously that's not even going super far back, but like Oblivion is like there was one point there was mysticism around it that I didn't even mind sometimes looking up, like game guides and stuff, is that there was this mask off the north coast or whatever in the water that maybe there was a mission marker, but I didn't find it from the mission marker. You had to swim down, almost die out of breath, and then you could find a mask that was down there that when you wear it would let you breathe underwater indefinitely. And
yeah, which is like, that's awesome.
That's rewarding because like that could be useful. And it's like, whoa, I found this, or my friend told me about this mysterious thing, right? It didn't be like, there wasn't a quest marker on it. And that was my problem with like Horizon and stuff, is like they're beautiful worlds that I want to explore, but everything feels like a checklist. I got like, it's like, hey, here's this secret cave. Well, it's not that secret if you put a quest marker on it.
Yeah, sorry, my wife is just clarifying.
That's right.
But yes, I agree with you. And like, so I think there's a thing of like, there are some people that just want to explore and experience things, and that's fine, whatever. That's not me necessarily, unless it's tied to great gameplay. But the gameplay in Zelda is like mid, so it's like I don't really care that much about that. And then also I feel like nowadays, because every game is like an RPG, that like Zelda really isn't, outside of like you go to a shrine to level up your health or stamina, so you don't feel like you're actually getting anything done in terms of progress towards your character. You're just exploring, and you get another piece of gear that's like a cosmetic, maybe even, that's for your face. And I'm like, that's one thing in games I do not care about.
Cosmetics,
at all. I don't even care. Like, I've used the same Rocket League car for like 3
that's
years
because
now.
you can't see your car because your camera's in space.
Because I zoomed it all the way out. Hey, now I'm on ultra wide, so I zoomed it in.
Oh my god. Okay. True gamer. I'm on ultra wide right now. That is true gaming experience. If you don't have an ultra wide, play in 21:9.
Oh yeah. It's very fun. Except for Rocket League's a little weird because you can't move the HUD elements in. So trying to play that for boost is fine, but then when I play Rumble, I don't know what power up I get.
Oh, I see. You can't move them inwards.
Yeah. Because on like Halo and stuff, they will allow you to put them in the normal spots if it was just a normal monitor, but you can still see further, which is nice. So hopefully one day we get that. We'll just say Unreal Engine 5, right? Because that's the answer.
All our wishes, man, and it really sucks because everyone's just piling their bucket wish list onto UE5 right now. The community wish list.
It's just funny. Like anytime there's a problem, UE5. But yeah, so that's to me when I play video games. I want something either where I have to think about it, like tactically, like tactics games. I was playing Marvel Midnight Suns.
Was that any good? I didn't hear that. I was looking forward to that, but I heard it wasn't as good as.
So I finally bought it because people kept saying it's great. So it's half and half. Like the gameplay's a lot of fun. It's like a card battler, sort of. That's like a combo based card battler. But then the outside of that stuff is like weird because it's like here's all these heroes. They're normal people too. So go to a book club or go to this club they call emo kids. Super weird. So I just kind of skip all that dialogue and I just don't care because they're just trying to be like dumb. Or it's like, here's a post on social media from Spider-Man. Like, I don't care about that at all. So I mostly just go through that very quickly and then I go back to battles and trying to level everyone up and all that stuff. So I just bought it like 2 days ago. I finally was like, all right, like all the DLC's out. Why not just pick up the special edition or whatever? It was like $40 or something. So I was like, all right, sure. Do that. So I'm playing that. But the like new Zelda, like I don't want to say it's a bad game. Really quick to go back to it, and I think people will enjoy it, and they should. But for every game critic to give it 10 out of 10, I'm just like, nah, man. Like this makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. When like those same game critics, I assume, gave Elden Ring a lot worse of a score. When Elden Ring is by far.
I also imagine there was the same people that gave Redfall a 10 out of 10. I saw a couple 9s.
Really, there was a few. Really, so those are the people that don't.
That's when you know they're being paid,
and they're just hoping that they're just copying everyone else.
Oh, that's
like,
too.
Yeah, I guess so. Sure, maybe, but yeah. Oh boy, Redfall.
Or they were given a free little Redfall statue or something as a gift to sway them.
But yeah, so it's just I'm playing that. Besides that, not too much.
Yeah, but back to your point of what your like what kind of games you're playing. You're saying so tactically. That's why Midnight Suns and
yeah. Like XComs I like a lot and stuff like that. But then it has to have good gameplay, like otherwise, right? So like a DMC or what's it?
No other games have good gameplay, so we can't think of it.
Yeah, Returnal was fantastic.
Okay, yeah.
I love playing that. Like it was a little short and a little like whatever at times, but the like endless thing that they added later was fantastic. So I love doing that. I was trying to like hit like top 100 in the world at times.
Did you?
So that was fun. I can't remember where exactly I landed. I think I landed either just inside top 100 or just outside top 100. I can't remember. But no, stop.
You know what's a game you might enjoy then? Just came. It's on PS Plus collection right now. Is Humanity.
I have heard the puzzle game like Lemons.
Yeah, it's like Lemmings, but with humans. And you're a Shiba Inu that is you run around and you put directions down and you have to try to get them to. And sometimes you have to like mid stretch. You'll have to like there isn't just like a solution. Here's put your pieces down. Now you're done. Halfway through, you might have to re-navigate multiple streams of humans to complete a thing because they have to work together, kind of thing. So it's you might like it. The puzzles are actually pretty intriguing, especially getting like the gold, like the bonus things, because the bonus things unlock passives and then allow you to advance further. That's another thing games don't do.
It's a reward.
Yeah, but it's a lot of games don't have like here complete the bonus objective here, and it's like why? Besides challenging myself. What do I get out of it? But having like passives to help maybe you jump 0.25% higher or something. It's still stuff that's in my opinion worthwhile. And I just wish more games like allowed you. Well, this is what Elden Ring was good for, right? Is allowing you to explore and potentially be rewarded with a sick ass weapon or just find a new boss. You're like, whoa, my god, why is this cave
just
still
XP
going?
on top of it, right? So
And I want games and stop your timer. But I this is why I play Star Citizen is that there's a timer in the green room. There's that gets my half the time it's not even me bringing it up anymore, to be honest. Someone else being like, Star Citizen, stop the timer. I'm like, didn't do it. But just to creating deep enough gameplay loops that are fun, and that goes to your gameplay thing, that are fun, then you can just choose to do it if you want to do it, but there isn't like, you don't have to do that. But then obviously there's that exploration thing that you're not a super fan of.
Sure. And that's fine too. Like, I don't expect everyone to agree with me and be like, oh, it's like a not a great score of a game. Like, there was expected 9s. And I knew it'd be 10s because it's Nintendo and Zelda. But like if it wasn't that, I would probably expect about 9s. But that's the thing too, because like there are times when like you'll go for a challenge, and it's fine if it is for just the challenge. But yeah, like normally, like I need more as well. But I think that was a problem with like Xbox days of like, here's achievements, so you get gamer score, which like, like who cares about that? But a lot of people do care about that, and that's why they'll do those challenges. And once in a while, like I'll do that like in a game when, so I'll look through on Steam like, oh, I'm basically done with this game. Is there anything fun that they added in these achievements to try and do? Like, I'll go for it. But so I think the problem nowadays with games is that they usually don't give you the good stuff because they'll save that for DLC or something like that. They'll make you buy it somehow.
It's pre-planned that it's not going to be in. They've already have it built.
Yeah.
We're not going to give it to you yet.
Right? And if it's a cosmetic, that's fine because I know there are a lot of people that like cosmetics, and that's a fine enough reward, but that just doesn't move anything for me. But I do love cosmetics in one way because, sure, loot boxes and all that are bad, but nowadays we get a lot of, for multiplayer games, all the DLC for pretty much everything is free now because they all do these microtransactions with cosmetics. That's how these games are around forever. So a bunch of these other people are paying for me to have fun with this game for years to come, right? And it's the same thing in like Rocket League. Like, I'm not a big cosmetic guy. Like, I will partake more in that because it's Rocket League, right? But for the most part, like any of these games like Valorant and all that stuff, Counter-Strike, like they make their money based on all these cosmetics, but they'll keep pumping out more stuff because then people will keep playing and they'll buy more cosmetics. But I just like never cared about cosmetics. I'm just like,
I'm curious though. Do you feel like live service, because that's what those are, live service games have ruined the industry a bit? Like, because I mean, we're still getting good single player games, but it still feels like these single player games that we talked about again, like Horizon, and that there's so much hand holding, and they're still pre-planning their DLCs and like, I don't to try to create even single player, like, hey, you're gonna play this for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I guess for me, because I mostly play multiplayer, like I don't mind it for just because I want games to evolve
to stay
like,
alive
as I play. Okay. Like Apex is one of my favorite games, and like that's fun to see what they add in there. And I'll stop playing for a year, but then I'll come back if they added something that like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like I'll play for a battle pass time, which is like 2 months or something. So I do enjoy that stuff because nowadays, the old days it was just, oh, I'll buy Call of Duty every year. Now it's like I can play Apex for 5 years and have fun and have new experiences all the time, or Fortnite or Rocket League or whatever, So I like it personally because I don't play a ton of games just by myself. It's usually multiplayer, so I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's interesting because because there's two approaches to it. One, there's the CS:GO route, the recent with CS:GO 2 or CS2, they are definitely like they're changing sort of, I guess. Like this will be one of the biggest changes they've seen in a while, like with the smokes and stuff. But like for the most part, they don't touch the core of it. The same with Rocket League, they don't touch the core of it.
Yeah.
But then there's something like Fortnite where they're like, screw everything, right? It's different every single time. Like every season it comes around, it's different. What's the better approach to something like that? Like, because I feel like you can't just do that. Like if you took Rocket League right now and said, screw it, now we're introducing Rumble to pro play or like different map, right? Like you can't really.
I'm coming back, baby.
Gibbs is back in the scene. You can't really do that unless you started that way, I feel. But what was better?
That's always been the problem with like, we had one map for so long that they're like, we're gonna add non-standard maps to Rocket League, and I would push for those all the time because I think it's more fun for an esport and just playing like in general to play on these non-standard maps. But it was too late, and then even in the pro scene, it was like, well, you can only choose it once, but the other 4 have to be normal. So why would anyone play it? It made no sense. And it's hard because that's how they made the game. At first, they tried to change, then they realized they don't need to because people just didn't want that, which is fine. So I would prefer that normally, but Rocket League is a game that like we have been playing for years. I've been playing since whatever it was, 2004
SARP.
with the first one, SARP, or whatever year it was. But most games I want something to change. Like I think the Fortnite model is the model to be copied normally because it just changes so much all the time and it keeps you like, oh, this is a lot of fun. The hard part is for people that are like, but my video game, I want to know what it was like to play Fortnite on day one. And there's like no way to do that. But to me, I don't really care about that because I don't go back to play like old games that often. So I'm like, it's fine. Like if this is a live service game, I know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get that experience at this point. But I think like Fortnite, so people will always downplay Fortnite like a ton. And like it did so much for video games in this past like whatever, like 8 years it's been out. Where it's like we got cross-platform play because Fortnite accidentally turned it on one weekend with the PlayStation Xbox. That began that conversation. Then because it got so big with Unreal Engine, they got the Epic Game Store. It helped devs out so much. They reduced the percent intake from 30% to like I think it's like 5 to 10% in that range based on how much the profits are. I guess
the story, the revenue share.
There's that. Now there's the new Fortnite stuff where you can just make your own game and and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they really are trying to do things with that. But a lot of games are just like, oh, we made a cool game. We're just gonna bag the money and bounce. Whatever.
Yeah.
But because it was by Epic and Unreal Engine and all that stuff, it really helped to catapult that. Like Unreal Engine 5 might not be where it is because of
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
They're in a really good position. Obviously, then you start to worry about. I mean, it's not like every single game is suddenly going to switch or start using UE5. So I don't think we have to worry about a monopoly scenario. But I think what is good is like overall, even just following him on Twitter, I've really appreciated Tim Sweeney more and more every single time. Right? It seems like his head's in the right place when it comes to what they're building. Is he right on everything? Maybe not, but like it just in general, like allowing I think the biggest thing that really pulled me to his side was during that whole Hearthstone thing with the player with the Hong Kong scenario, and then Sweeney's like, we're never going to stop our players from speaking their mind on their own platforms, right? And then also moving Fortnite to this platform of like, hey, make your own games and make money off it. Like to me that really seems consumer friendly even if they are profiting off it at the beginning, it seems consumer friendly because you're allowing people's work to be rewarded. I mean, it brings me back to the Warcraft 3 days, right? I mean, that's how we got games like Dota. Like we wouldn't have League of Legends without Warcraft 3 allowing mods like that.
Yeah, like and it hasn't been perfect like along the way with like how they do microtransactions and all that. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to have a lot more progress for video games than what it did to hurt it with the microtransactions or a live service or whatever. But yeah, like I don't think it gets enough credit. Like I think a lot of times people hate on it because it's popular, which is fine. Whatever. But I don't really play it that much anymore. But they did just finally add ranked mode. So I might get back into it, Leaf. Who knows? I don't know.
If there's a way for Gibbs to try to cheese his way to top 100, he'll play it.
Yes. That is what I do, Leaf. I play video games and I cheese them until I can't.
It should be common knowledge by now because people have talked about this before. But if I do this, he'll know. But right, yeah. But Gibbs has always been a professional top level gamer since the early days.
I wouldn't say professional.
You were on television playing video games.
Once, to be fair, once and once only. Okay.
What was the game again? What was that?
Soldier of Fortune. If you look up it's like put the YouTube link in the description.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description. Okay.
But that was a good time. But that's basically what I do. Is like I'll play a video game, and I'll be like one of the best in the world the first week or two, and then we'll fall off when like metas become happening or stuff like that. Like, so I can pick up games very, very quickly and be very, very good at them within hours. So it's a lot of fun when a game gets launched, like a multiplayer game. I love that first night or the first week of nights where I'm just dominating everyone, and it's just a good time. But then it usually stops. Like there was a Blood Hunt, that battle royale vampire game that came out.
Oh,
That I think
okay,
was
yeah,
supposed
yep.
to- That first week was fantastic. Like I lost my first game because I didn't know what the controls were. Won my next like 4, and that's like I can't remember how many people in it, like 50 to 80. I'm not sure.
I
Battle
forget
royale
what
is
it is.
by
Yeah.
yourself. But it was just like, oh, I understand this game now. And then like I was winning like probably a 40% of my games by myself. So things like that. Like I like doing that to just go into games. Like I have a long history of being one of the top in the world at various games throughout the olden days, like 360 era. But it was never like the really, really popular ones, Halos or the Gears of Wars, because I'm not gonna like train or anything like that. So
See, that's all he needs to do is keep, and that's it worked for Rocket League. Is you just be at the top at the beginning, so you become a foundational member of whatever the scene is, and then you back off pro play, so you don't have to put the grindy hours in, and people still look up to you. Genius. He's brilliant.
So Rocket League, yeah, that was an interesting one because I played SARP for only about a year, and then I stopped because they came out with some patches that just didn't make the game feel that great. So I was just like, like I love this game, but I'll wait. I'll wait till Rocket League or whatever, that would come later. But then I played the alpha, and I put in a decent amount of hours, I guess, in the alpha and the betas, but nothing like insane. And then I was playing with one of the devs one day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we have like an MMR system behind everything. Number 1 is Crow by a mile. Then it is number 2 is you by another mile over everyone." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "I didn't think I was that good, but yeah, I don't know." Like I would just find ways to win, and that catapulted us into me and Crow team.
What were your early on tactics? No, like what was your cheese?
I didn't have too much cheese. It was mostly like I would play mostly defense if I knew I was going up against a Crow or Sad Junior because I knew they were really good. So I'm like, you know what, guys, I'll chill back. And I think that's why they were like, hey, we should team up because you're really good on defense. We're really good on offense. So that's what I would do when I knew I was playing like a really good player. But outside of that, I would just, I don't know, play normal Rocket League. Like Rocket League wasn't one where I could really cheese necessarily.
Yeah, it's harder.
It was more of just trying to understand rotations and all that stuff. But there's been plenty of other games in the past where it's just I'll cheese my way like early on. But my main issue is that I don't like to practice in like anything. So this was an issue throughout my entire life. Like school came easy, sports came easy, like early on. So I didn't really care to like practice to get better. That kind of hurt me in college, to be fair. When I finally got tested, I was like, yo, I'm out of here. Yeah. And that's how it is in video games too. Like I'll enjoy them for a time, but then it's like, oh, do you want to train your Rocket League skills to get really good at like doing aerials or flip resets or whatever? Like, no, I just want to play another.
Can you half flip?
3v3 ranked match. I can half flip. Okay. I cannot speed flip. I've never even looked into speed flipping.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can do the fast jump thing.
Fast aerial, okay.
I never fly upside down because I just get I just get I do air roll occasionally, but I do not air roll into shots. Like to put my car in a nice spot to get power on a shot. Okay. I don't. Like once in a while, so if I'm in the air and I need to air roll to like do a certain type of shot, sure. But if it's like one of those normal ground shots, like you know how people like tilt away and then dive back into it. Yeah. I don't do any of that. But I'm still like GC2, so hey, whatever.
So
it's working.
The shout out to all you players out there that claim they need mechanics to get GC.
That was the conversation that was happening earlier when it was like Crow was on Twitter talking about like, oh, the Worlds was like Champ 1 gameplay.
Oh yeah. And people were like, oh, we could beat them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people were still like, no, Crow is definitely wrong. Have you watched him play? And it's like, dude, like I am. So I play faster than then, but Crow was still better than me then than I am now, for sure. And I'm basically Grand Champ too. So they would find a way. Like, sure, it might take a couple games to get up to speed, but they would find a way pretty easily to compete like around the Grand Champ level, I would say.
You should do a breakdown at some point and like just take a game, like one game, and explain like this is sure there's no mechanics, but this is why they would look at this decision, look at this, and if you try to do this, they would do that. Like that'd be an interesting breakdown of like this is why they're still better.
Yeah, and that was also what I kind of did early on YouTube was like even with my gameplay because I knew like, hey, no one's gonna be able to watch Crow and Sad and do what they do right away, but they can watch me and do what I do, and I still win, right? So it's like, so that was kind of what I did early on. But the thing I would love to do is do a video of my rank gameplay of Grand Champ 2. Just turn off all the names for myself. All right, so what rank was that? Or like, here's an old video of like season 2. I won't tell you who's playing or whatever. Problem is I use an Esper, so I have to change that. And I'm like, so tell me what the rank is nowadays. And they would probably immediately say like Diamond or Champ 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is literally my Grand Champ 2 lobby from yesterday. Like, it's not that good. Like, when you watch anyone play, you always think that you can do so much better, but you really can't.
Yeah. That's what I say. I want to do, if Sunless ever listens, I want to, or whoever was doing them, I want to do the guess the rank thing. Because whenever I did it from home, I think I had a 98% on the dot correct record looking at those.
Yeah, when I was doing the replays, like I would do a lot of like analysis. He brought me on one of those, and I was like very, very close on all of them. And then the one that was like gold, I got exactly right, but he didn't add that one to the video, and I was pissed.
Oh, that's
come on. I was like, probably everyone else got it wrong. And I was like, I got it. Oh yeah. But,
oh man, like he's painting his own picture, making his own narrative. It's a bull crap. We'll need to petition. I'm curious. You mentioned college. Did you drop out of college?
Yeah, I did.
Because I did too. So I'm just curious if it seems to be successful in esports, drop out of college. So if you guys are in school right now, don't listen to me. It seems to be. I think a lot of us ended up deciding, no, this isn't for us.
Yeah, well, my problem was I was doing like computer stuff, and I'm a terrible typer. Like I have typos all the time. I was like, I don't want to learn how
what
to
course?
program
Like, what was your course?
Typos. So, huh?
What was
It was like computer engineering, but it was mostly like computer programming stuff.
Okay, that's what I was doing too. Yeah,
terrible type. So I'm just like, I'm gonna have so many mistakes, and I'm just like, I don't know. And I was just lazy because everything came so easy. So I was just like, nah, I'm good.
That was my thing too. So in high school, I was doing programming. And I loved it because I was just experimenting, making my own stuff half the time. Right? Like I had one class, and outside of that, I was just making my own stuff. But when I went to school for it, I'm like, for me, it was the bigger issue was, well, I was also lazy. ADHD tends to cause you to be lazy in some areas, but it's like not lazy, but like you don't get stuff done when you should. And I got to the point where I didn't like people telling me what to be making. And that became my problem. Is like, well, you have to do this. You have to do this. I'm like, but I want to make this instead. And then I just didn't want to do it. It was like a oppositional, because I have ODD. Sure. It's oppositional defiance disorder. I think that started triggering it. I didn't want to be told what to make.
Yeah, college did two things great for me. Like I met my wife there, so that worked out.
I guess that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, perfect. And then it also, I think, changed my personality a bit too.
Okay.
Because in high school, I was very quiet. I just didn't really care. I was just whatever. So one of my favorite things was one of my friends in like one of the final days of school was like, I love that you just don't give a shit about anything. I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. That's all. And like, who cares about anything? But I was never like, so I guess I was probably closer to like the nerdier group, but I didn't really associate with that many people because I had friends at home that we would just play sports every day. So I would just do that instead that were like in different grades. But one of the girls once said that I was the king of the nerd group. And I was like, I don't even like hang out with these guys that much. Like outside of school. I was like, whatever. I don't know, but whatever.
But I'm
so
the
I
king.
was like quieter. Yeah, like I was like quieter and I just didn't really care. And I was like, whatever. Like I'll play my sports with my friends or stuff. Then college, my roommate and then like a bunch of our friends, we had a big group of like 20 of us because the first year in dorms, we left all our doors open. We were all just hanging out like all the time. But it was more of like my roommate, he would just not prank, but just be doing funny shit all the time, like joking around, all that stuff. And I think I got more of my humor from those years of just hanging out with him and just like going back and forth, bantering a lot and all that stuff. So instead of being quiet, I was opening up more and just like making bad jokes, which you've seen plenty. Like in
you guys will be okay. So when you look at when you look at Gibbs on the broadcast, you're probably like, hey, that's the dad. He's the clean guy. Do you talk to him at some point outside of outside.
I
of
made
the
a joke
broadcast.
today I felt a little bad about in our text, and it was in text, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have.
Oh, I didn't see that at the ground. I'm gonna have to go look at that at some point.
Yeah.
Gibbs is the master of too soon jokes. First off, and
just dark.
Yeah, he gets dark sometimes, and it'll. I think that's what helps is that because it's maybe once every 3 weeks or a month that they hit, and that's what catching you off guard is what.
So it's
really
either
is
dad
the
jokes or then it just goes super dark.
It's just
goes,
way the other way. You're like, what, Gibbs?
Yeah, where'd that come from? So I think that changed my personality a lot of just banter and stuff, and that's probably the only reason why I can do what I do now is because of those years. Because if I didn't have that, I probably would have just been quiet and not really done much anyway. So I think those really helped change who I was as a person, I guess.
Yeah.
But for the better. I don't know if that happened to you, Leaf, or were you just always a goofball?
Well, I mean, I was always weird, but like I think it was like, cause in high school, I was the quiet guy on the side playing my Nintendo DS in the hallway in the corner or whatever. We'd find a little crevice so people wouldn't bother us, and or I'd be in the computer lab. So I was. But I still had friends in like every group. Like, so we had a big Serbian group that just all hung out together. I had friends in that. We had the sports group. I played a little bit of hockey with the school for a bit. So I had friends in the jocks or whatever it was. Like, I had friends in almost every single clique, and I was just generally an empathetic person. So I was always friend zoned, but all the girls loved to come to me because I would listen to them complain about their relationship or whatever. Like I had friends everywhere, but like I identified mostly with the nerd group, and that's where I spent most of my time. But I didn't feel like I talked a lot. Maybe I did, and I just don't remember. But I think when I really broke out of my shell was probably around 18, because my dad had me working in the restaurants that he oversaw since I was 14. I was just cleaning windows or just very minor work at the beginning. And when I was 18, I started serving a bit, and just being around other servers who were social or customers, I developed more of the losing the fear to talk to people, I guess, because I was pretty shy when I had to talk to strangers. I didn't make any raunchy jokes ever. When someone did, I would kind of like, like I was reserved in that regard. But yeah, I think, and then I also started college around that time too. So that I probably have a similar story of like that's what kicked me into gaming.
Yeah, so I think in high school too, because like I always had like speech issues throughout my entire life, so that also would limit me, and like I don't really care to do this, which will lead into like this job later, because I want to talk about how like everything about this job by itself I hate, but I don't actually hate it because it's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like through speech issues and all that stuff, but then video games as well. When they start coming online, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's play some games. And then I was like, oh, shit, I'm actually really good at these games. And I can also be like the tactitional guy to tell people what to do and do well in it. So I started talking a lot more in that and stuff like that. So I think it helped my speech as well of just trying to talk as much as possible. So, but then it came into like to join Rocket League, obviously with the YouTube and stuff. That's why Golden Boy contacted me. But it was just funny because I don't like to travel. I don't like to wear suits. I hate public speaking. It's like my number one fear, or it was, I guess. And like, but now I do all those for my job, and I love it. Right? So it's like,
it's funny because So I hate suits. I don't know. I just don't like wearing suits. Tesla, my partner, loves when I wear a suit, but I'm not.
See, it's one of those things again. Like I don't give a shit, right? I don't care. Like, I want to be in something comfortable because it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm in sweatpants and a t-shirt right now. That's what I would love to do a show in. So I don't like wearing suits. I especially prefer. I like that we get a lot more freedom in what we can do now. So like even looking back to Rotterdam for me, being able to wear a little bit more street clothes during those first days when there's no crowd, and then not having to wear a tie during suit days is that at least was a great compromise for me. But the other thing that is interesting about it is you mentioned the speech problem, like with the stutter and that, and then there's me with Tourette's, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're watching the podcast here, you'll see it when I'm in more comfortable environments. Like you'll see, like jaw stretches, eye raises, my head jerks. I try to disguise a lot of it when I'm on actual shows. I'll have an arm tick that I'll pretend I'm, adjusting my shirt or something. So I found a way around it, and I can just stop it if I need to, but it feels like an itch I have to do. But it's interesting that, people, that we got these jobs like this seems very, not typical, that people, with a speech problem or a physical, like what the hell is he doing kind of thing, get on camera into a broadcast scenario.
Oh yeah, I was like, so when Golden Boy asked me, I was like, I have to say yes, but like, I was like, this is not going to go well at all. But that first weekend when we were done was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. Like outside of kids and marriage,
Yeah.
But it was like, holy shit, I can actually like do this. And Golden Boy like came up to me, was like, dude, you killed the desk or whatever. Our banter was great. And also, I was like, it's fantastic. And obviously, looking back now, it's probably terrible, but it was still like for a first time with all these fears and all that stuff. Like, there's a camera crew with lights and stuff. It was weird. But
it was
like,
bigger than I didn't know how big it was going to
be. Yeah,
be.
exactly. And then you just go on the show though, and for me at least, like when I'm on camera, it's like, all right, time to bring out the like Gibbs personality or whatever, to be like a know-it-all more or whatever. But also just to like act the part a little bit, and it somehow worked, and been doing it ever since. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because we came away from that first weekend with very different experiences. I was the most depressed I've ever been in my life.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was the first time really seeing myself, because I rewatch all the VOD. Like even before that with Lawler on VVV, we would stay up for hours afterwards. We did a broadcast, and we would just analyze what we said and how our handoffs, all that stuff. Like we would.
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, we did VOD review a lot back then, but we weren't on camera then, right? So it was just voice. So now getting into a scenario where I had to worry about camera presence, and I wasn't worrying about it during those first weeks because I didn't realize that was an extra thing I had to be conscious of. I don't know, just seeing myself, I'm like, holy crap, I'm ugly. What am I doing with my hands? Why did I say that thing? And it was just, it was this instant. It got so bad that there was a piece of me that said, I don't know if I can do this. Thankfully I said to myself, I'm not going to be the person that lets depression take over. I'm fighting this, and I'm going to work at this because I have to push through these hard moments. And thankfully I did, because, I'm still crap.
And
but
unfortunately you did. No, sorry.
Yeah. I'm glad I did, because I learned a lot of skills in the meantime. And then having the television show that I worked on too helped with the camera presence. That's where I really honed in the camera presence stuff. But I still think I have a long way to go. Like when you look at something like a Golden Boy in that.
Of course. Like, he just oozes fucking charisma. Like, I don't know how you do that. But it's always funny too, because like throughout this interview, like it's a casual interview, and I'm supposed to be just looking at you on my monitor, and I've looked at the camera for like 90% of this just directly, like because I'm so used to doing that now that like nothing else matters, or I'm just like, yep, I'll just do it. I'll just look at the camera. So, and not only look at the camera, obviously you gotta look away and all that stuff, but like it's just ingrained in me now. Like, hey, there's a camera on you, play to the camera, So like, but it's weird. So I'm like, never thought that's where my life would go, because like I liked sports and I could analyze sports or whatever and like talk about that stuff to friends, but like never thought I'd get a job in like the esports side, and then also doing like helping with formats and all that stuff has been like interesting, because like then I get to really like no, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. It doesn't make sense now, but it will one day. And like things like that. So let's bring it up real quickly.
Okay.
Because my one problem with everyone about formats is when the worst case happens in a certain format. Let's just talk about winter groups in general, right?
We have a couple worst case scenarios that have happened over the years.
Yes, winter groups, obviously, it makes it difficult, right? When like we have a 3-way tie and then it comes down to game differential, but only between the 3 tied teams and all that stuff, and then everyone's like, but that team beat the other team, so shouldn't they be number one? It's like, well, they're tied with 13, like that doesn't make any sense. But that was like worst case, right? Like not a huge issue, but people are gonna bring it up like, wow, they really should have done it by doing it this way. Like I'm gonna throw one player under the bus a little bit, and this just irked me a bit, and it's not his fault. Garrett G.
If there's any
so
player to
on
throw under the
Twitter,
bus, I think he can take it.
yeah. Like he's fine. Captain America, which he should be called Superman. I don't know why that didn't stick. He's literally Clark Kent. And then when he's on the field, he's Superman. I don't understand. I'm not good at trying to keep these catchphrases going. I'm no T Bates, so maybe that's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, but he was like, "Yeah, this doesn't make sense. What? So what you should do is do the game differential between the side teams if you want, and then do head to head like after that." And I'm like, "No, because of X, Y, and Z. Like this would make absolutely no sense. Then teams could actually rig this or whatever. And then also, it also doesn't make sense in any other way besides this one time." Right.
Mhm.
And that's what people always will look at. They see the one time and they're all like, well, that was terrible. But if you did it the other way, it'd be so much better. But they don't look at the other worst case problems that are much, much worse than this one that could easily happen. And I think that's always been a problem across formats in general. They wait until the problem happens and then they fix it. Thinking back season 2. 59 greater than whatever it was. That one annoyed me because like early on, I was like, this doesn't make sense. We need to change it. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. And then it happens. And I'm like, now we got to be on air, like talking about it's the worst. But so things like that. So
yeah, the thing with formats is always just trying to minimize that the chances of those because like almost like no formats like perfect. There's always going to be that one weird outlier. So you try to pick the format or work something around that will go to that least offensive scenario.
Worst case scenario. Yeah.
So that's what format is closest to perfect is for you then?
I like Swiss a lot. Swiss is a good time. I don't really care about buckles, and that's another thing. People will bring up buckles all the time when there's a scenario where a team will get in by beating 3 teams that didn't make top 8 or whatever. And I'm like, that can easily happen in buckles too. It doesn't really matter. And like they use that in like chess because all they do is Swiss. And that's all they do. And they find their winner through Swiss. And there's no tournament after. It doesn't really matter. So it's like, sure, like you could use it. Is it necessarily? Not really. We kind of use buckles in a way as is now. So it's like it's modified so people can actually have more power like over their control. Like 3-0 sweep. This is great. I have power, whatever. But probably Swiss, so it's weird because we have a 3 regional format. So I don't think you need a perfect format in terms of you need to get every place exactly correct. Because obviously there's always 3 aspects, right? Player happiness, fan happiness, and just balance, what you can show on air, right? So you got to balance between those 3. And I like to favor pros pretty much in all aspects, outside of so it has to fit into a show. As long as it fits into a show and people can kind of understand it, I will go with the pros more often than not. So I would love to, if I was in full control, I would pull the pros on literally everything. I'd just be like, do you want this schedule or that schedule? Or we got this format now. How do you want it to play out? And then if they complain, you could just throw down that vote and be like, nah, you guys said this.
Yeah.
So you guys said head to head, you wanted that tiebreaker, not game differential. So we could throw it down in your fit, things like that. But yeah, probably Swiss, fall, I think is probably the only thing we really need. Obviously with 8 teams at the end, it's not always incredibly accurate. But you have 3 regionals to play around that, right? So
yeah. I think the ultimate thing that people have to look at is the wider picture. There's a reason that even across multiple formats, across such a span of how many freaking games that we play, ultimately, even if a top team does get a bad stroke of luck, in a bad seeding, bad place, whatever, through some scenario out of their hands, that's not going to happen so often that they're screwed across an entire season, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It might happen in a split. He missed fall major. They got really unlucky with 2 of their tournaments. Kind of bowed them out. But if you're good enough to actually win Worlds, that should not matter anyway. Because then you should be a top 4 team. At the end of it. So it's not going to be the most accurate, but you don't want it to be the most accurate because then it's boring. Right. You also need those upsets and you need that upset potential. So people always complain in esports so much about every single format, yet we play 9 tournaments online a year. Then you go to the freaking Olympics. And they're just like, nah, here's your bracket. Doesn't make any sense. Who cares? we're doing this once every 4 years. Figure it out.
Just win.
Just win. That this is your one chance in your lifetime because you're gonna be too old next time. I don't care. Just win. You know, it's like I don't know, but or like World Cup of Soccer, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Gibbs for president of the Olympic Committee.
Let's do Swiss everywhere. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I think overall it's as you said, it's a balance between entertainment and competitive integrity. And as long as you're hitting it can lean one way or the other, but as long as I agree. I also would lean towards the competitive integrity. Like I'd weight that a bit more, but it can't go far enough that it's just boring for the viewers. Like ultimately at the end of the day, you can compete as much as you want, but if no one's watching it, what does it mean? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you got your own value to it. Like it doesn't, but you still want people to see you succeed at something. So.
And that's kind of like what happened in season 1, right? Because I don't remember exactly how we got to the 5-game set, but I'm pretty sure like I pushed at least partially for that. So I was like, well, this makes the most sense. Then you'll know who the top 4 teams are at the end and do a playoff, right? Because you'll get your 5-game set. So if the team's really good, then they could 5-0. But then we figured out like this is just boring. If someone goes up like 3-0 or 4-0, no one wants to watch game 5. Like no one cares at all. So like. Sure, it made the most sense because I was thinking like baseball terminology of like, oh, you're going to do like a 3-game set versus a team. It's a regular season. But like, no one wants to watch that. Like, once a team is up 3 or 4-0. So it's like, we had to scrap that. Then go to best of 5s and, like all that. So I think there has been a balance across the board from not only me, because I don't like control any of this. I just help consult.
Yeah.
But then also what they've done as well with the esport, like in general, of like, hey, we're going to go to this tournament style now. We're getting away from league play. So they brought that up, and they're like, how do we make this work with formats? And that's where I came in a little bit more. Like, all right, let's try this or whatever. But it's been fun. Like, I never would have expected to help shape like multi-million-dollar esport.
Yeah, it's pretty
cool. Like,
cool.
I'm not like technically on credits.
Resume piece.
Yeah, I'm technically not on credits, but like, I know I've shaped it, so it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Gibbs is the mastermind. He's the
I'm the commissioner.
He's the commissioner.
But I can't get OCE down to one spot. I just can't do it. I've tried now.
That's what. All right. And anything else to add to the rant before I get my Reddit clip? No. Gibbs rants about formats. Calls out.
Oh, I do. All right.
Okay.
All right. So I am going to bring up a question to you because I know it's your podcast, but like I have to take over at some point.
Yeah. No. We're in this together.
All right. So, what is something that gets so much like hate but doesn't deserve the hate? I have two answers, but I'll let you go first.
Just in general, or is this
just
topical?
In general? No, in life. In anything. It doesn't have to be Rocket League or whatever.
Okay. Well, my first answer, is going to be Star Citizen.
Okay. So I was thinking outside video games, but sure. Yes, that one does get a lot of hate, and you have tried to turn me, but I just don't care enough. But yes.
Yeah. One day we'll get one group session of everyone when the game's a bit more complete down the road.
Okay.
Wow, that's tough. What is something that gets and
like a lot of hate, but it's not deserved.
Remember, you guys can get involved.
Oh yeah, put it in the comments right next to the like button.
That gets a lot of hate that does not deserve the hate.
And this is not a riddle or anything.
No, I know, but it's like it's so tough for me because I feel like everybody hates everything nowadays. So like I could have so many answers for this.
That is fair when you get into certain like echo chambers, right?
What is something that gets a lot of hate that doesn't deserve? Okay, I got my answer. Pineapple on pizza.
Ooh, okay. I've never tried it.
See, you can never complain about it because you've never, and so I bet you so many people just haven't even tried it.
Sure, I think a lot of people just hate it for the meme, too.
Right. It's here impressions.
Yeah, I'm not. So I wasn't a big pineapple guy until I went to Hawaii, and I was like, I should try pineapple. So I was probably one of those guys.
Wait, had you not tried pineapple?
I probably didn't, but I thought I didn't like it at that point.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, this is pretty good. All right, like I can deal with this. And like I probably wouldn't like it that much on pizza, but if there was a party where there was pineapple on pizza, I would give it a try. Like, I wouldn't pay for it,
Okay.
because I don't know if I don't like it, right? So
Sure,
like I'm not
okay,
gonna pay
fair,
for
yeah,
something
yeah.
I don't know. But like if it was there, then I would take a slice.
All right,
So
I'll
maybe
get.
next catering for our majors or whatever worlds, we should ask for pineapple.
And if they don't, I'll get you I'll next time I see you, I'm getting you a slice of pineapple pizza.
Okay.
All right, what are your things?
Mine.
You're beaming right
First,
now. Okay.
first one, spiders. Like spiders just get a lot of bad rap.
True.
They kill a lot of small
good.
bugs. Like
Yeah.
they're great. They also can just make a web. It's like super cool.
Dude,
how
I got
fast they
5
can do it.
spider bros hanging on the ceiling downstairs.
We don't really have a lot of spiders here but we don't get a lot of flies. But it's also a new house, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But like if I had flies, I'd be like, yo, I need to like go buy spiders. Like, throw 'em in the corner or something here until he catches that guy. Okay, and then number 2. Here's your ad break here. You ready?
Okay.
1-ply toilet paper. Scott's. Here we go. Full cam it, Lee. Sponsored by Scott's. We got 1-ply toilet paper. This gets so much hate, and I do not understand it at all. 1-ply toilet paper is the best toilet paper.
No. Okay, I'm on the other side
now,
on this one.
Exactly. Like everyone is, but I don't understand it because all right, there's some bad 1-ply toilet paper. You know, when you go to like an office, it's like I don't even know what that is, but
Okay, yeah.
It's great. 1-ply is great because then you can make it as much as you want. It's 1-ply to start, but if you fold it up a bunch, turns into 2-ply, turns into 3-ply. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with it. It is more versatile than when you put a freaking giant cloud on your butt. And every time I take 2 sheets off, I feel like I've killed a tree. So, like with the 1-ply toilet paper, I can take as little as I want. I can take as much as I want. And so this is why I was acting weird. I had this all ready to go. Of course, Leaf, I'm coming on your podcast. 1-ply toilet paper. We live and die like in this household by 1-ply toilet paper.
You know what? I'm still gonna say I'm still standing elitist on you. Is get a bidet.
I do have a bidet.
Okay.
That was actually got that for my birthday like 2 years ago, and I told my wife it's the best birthday present I've ever had. But occasionally, it's in our master bathroom. Occasionally, can't go up there for whatever. So, but 1-ply does the job because then you could just ball it up or whatever you want to do and get as million micro folds and plies between your fingers and your butt, and I don't have to worry about wasting too much because it's 1-ply. Doesn't even matter. You can waste as much as you want. But when you waste the ones where they're like clouds and whatever it is, 5-ply, I don't even know what it is. It's just too much. It's just like I'm killing the environment.
My problem, I'm not because we get the clip could be done. We got a clip, but I still have to talk about it because my problem is that in general that material tends to be not as like a rougher material for some reason, like the way it's compressed or whatever. Because with a 2-ply, 3-ply, 20-ply is you can make the material less tight because it width-wise holds itself together rather, right? So with the 1-ply, it's a lot harder. I use toilet paper to like if I'm in the bathroom to blow my nose. Right, so that gets rough around the edges of the nose, on the butt as well. When you're just drying, I want it to be nice and soft.
No, but here's the thing. You people are weak. All right,
That's what are weak. That's what it's about. Rubbing my ass with sandpaper.
Well, it's like your bidet, where you were like, when we talked about this years ago, you're like, you have to get the one where it's heated and all that stuff because if it's cold, it's gonna really bother you. And guess what? I didn't get the heated one. I got the cold one. Sure, the first 2 times, a little bit off, but then your butt adapts, all right? And your butt is used to the cold. Your butt gets used to 1-ply. You don't need a cloud on your butt. There's no need for it at all. My nose is fine. I blow my nose very rarely. And if I do, I have tissues. So those are different because they have like lotion and
That's true.
so if I really need to. But then also with kids, they're wasting a ton of toilet paper all the time. So, like, we got to keep it down. 1-ply. It's where it's at. It gets way too much hate across everywhere. Use it. It'll change your life. Just have your butt adapt. All right?
I don't know. What do you guys think in chat? What ply are you going for? Is the 1-ply good enough? I don't know. Again,
it is. It's versatile, man. It's versatile.
Well, I think that maybe that's the problem. Maybe really is that I can't deal because if I'm away from the house, I don't poop. I wait till I get back home so I can use my bidet. it's such a life. But maybe my rectum's just too soft now to handle one play.
Getting soft, Leif, getting soft. But yeah, but like obviously go bidet first, then go one play. Like,
right.
It'll change your life. One play versatile, Zen in Rocket League is the one ply toilet paper, okay? Quote it, tweet it, all right? Versatile. Doesn't always look the fanciest in Regional 1, but he got the job done. They got their wins. It's all good, all right? Versatility is what you need.
That is wonderful.
I think Ferrer would agree.
You know what? I think this is a wonderful end note. I think this is a wonderful time. I have so many more things I'd love to chat with you about, but I think you capped us off nicely here. While I may not agree with the statement, it was a statement nonetheless.
At least I put some thought into it, and I put on a show. All right?
That's
my camera presence and doing bits. No matter whenever I'm camera, I'm like, I got to do a bit. So I was planning this since like 2 days ago.
It's wow. You know what? Is that okay? Here's the thing.
Okay. Let's go.
I was very surprised, and I thought you were just like, really? Yeah. I understand now why you reached out to me to say, let's do the podcast.
No.
Finally had a bit.
No, first we agreed to a time, and then I was starting to think. And I think that's my problem, or not my problem, but maybe
it's
why
a problem.
I do well on the desk. Sometimes it's like I'll think about something a month in advance. Like with our Dignitas stream, when I did the mask over my eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought about that like a month and a half in advance. I'm like, God. I got to remember this. And so real quick, I did want to talk about, because I know you're trying to cut me off, but I got a little more time.
Okay, no, let's go. I just thought I thought it was a good capstone, but I'll keep going.
So I wanted to ask you about how's the transition been? Because obviously RLCS, you have transitioned, caster to host to interviewer. How has that been for you in terms of the work experience, or just trying to figure those things out? Because like I've always had the same exact role, right? I've always been on the desk. It's like, so I've changed my things a little bit, but we'll get into that. But I want to know for you, like, how has that been to try and transition from like 3 very different roles?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gibbs podcast. I like this. Less work for me. Yeah, it's fun, and this is why initially I was worried about switching, because it was back in season, I think it was season 5, because I did the stage hosting for season 5, and then I was and then I casted again for season 6, and then season 7 is when I did the hosting. So yeah, season 5, I didn't really give much thought to it, because I was like, it's my only way to get to do something, because I didn't have a visa.
Because that was during the visa time, right?
And
so
and it appeared as if my visa would come around in time for season 6, and they asked me to do the stage hosting to kind of reintroduce me, and I'm like, you know what, this seems like a good moment. I'm going to do this, right? But for me, it was like that wasn't going to be my role from there on out. I was going to go back to casting, so I didn't think much of it. That was also terrifying. Stage hosting is one of the most terrifying roles, because when you think about it, so that's one thing I had to learn early on is very quickly, and thank God we had Stumpy and Cole there at season 5 to help, because for the crowd. When you do stage hosting, the biggest thing you have to learn is you don't have anyone else to rely on, right? Like and if you're doing interviews, you can't rely on a player. Some of them you can, right? But a lot of them, especially with the they're kids, they're mid-teens, they're not versed in this stuff to recognize when I'm suffering for a question or whatever to help me out. But with casting, you at least have one other person that can recognize, ooh, they need help, let me jump in. With the desk, you get a lot of people. With stage hosting, you're alone, so you have to. Thankfully, the crowd became my second co-caster at that point, and I could rely on them. So that was one of the things I had to learn with that. And then transitioning to hosting, I was hesitant, because I'm like, well, am I going to be able to, like, I love casting, right? Like, so am I ruining my opportunity? So I asked Golden Boy actually if I should do it, and he said, yeah, that'll always open up more opportunities for you, and it's got its own skills. So transitioning to that took me a bit of time to recognize what the role was, because the roles are all you like, we're talking in front of a camera, right? But how you operate in those roles changes quite a bit, even from an analyst on the desk to the host. Is so much different, because the role of a host is to set the mood. What is the tone that everyone is going to have going forward. And that, to me, I realized is a role of a host is, well, also sponsor reads in transition, but that was something that you can, once you have that skill, you kind of, that's it. There's not much to build off of that. But the setting the tone early on and understanding your guests is important, right? If you start and hey, today's a serious day, you can start the show with your tone and saying, just like, welcome to the Rocket League Championship Series today. 4 competitors, right? And you start with a story immediate. Now your analysts know, all right, we're in serious mode today. Let's talk about those things. Or I could start and be like, welcome to the show. Gibbs, you're looking weird today, and like I can start with a jab and all of a sudden desk is having fun. And now since the example's been set, they'll probably carry that on going forward. But that's not something that you really you get to do with stage hosting or you get to do with casting. The tone gets set with that pivot point, that host. Then, casting in a tone was working with different people, trying to make sure your style fits in. Like, that's a whole other skill set. And then the stage hosting, as I mentioned, being able to operate interviews, being able to work a crowd, being able to rely on yourself to get through a moment. Say, for instance, you have to stall for some reason on a stage. What do you do at that point? And so they all have their own skills, but I found them, because going back to my season 1, the depresso mode of like being scared, like what learning, realizing that I could get through that, made getting through these transition periods to other roles a lot easier, because I could look at them instead of being scared, saying, wait, there's something I can learn from this that I can bring back and apply to one of the other roles. And I think that was the mentality that I learned most is, don't be scared of the new roles. No, it'll be a little anxiety inducing at the beginning, but you'll eventually get around it.
And I think the hard part too was when you came into hosting was when we changed to the 4-man desk, right? At the same time. So
yeah, how many did we have before that? Was it 3?
It was 3, yeah. And then when you came in, because then Lawler moved to the other
right. Yes. Yeah.
And then so like that whole dynamic had to change anyway.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird because like it was like kind of a fresh start, I guess, if you use a host, but at the same time, like, oh, we have to do this completely differently than we've ever done before. So I can't even go back and try and like base it on what like Axel Toss was doing or whatever. So it's been like interesting, and I think the desk, how it's evolved as well has been very interesting over the years. Because obviously, like I've done it from the very start, been on every desk, like outside of like a one major here or there. But it's like, so we start with 3. It was just a host, me and one other caster. At first, it was like me and James normally, but James would get more into casting later on.
Yeah.
And so you would have to like go back and forth. It was more analytical, I would say, like at that time.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any numbers in the early season, so that was the hard part too. We had literally no numbers.
Yep.
So it's like you either had to write down every goal or just kind of like talk around those numbers and not actually use numbers, which was its own challenge. And then like I would add in bits here or there because like you got to entertain a bit, but I wasn't where the desk is now, where it's more full blown entertainment. Like we never really got there until these past like 2 years, I would say. So it like evolved from the 3-man desk to now it's a 4-man desk, and now it's like, all right, there's a lot less time to talk in general because there's one extra person. So how do you make your time more valuable? Do you try and specialize or not? And I think as my career has gone on, like I started out very micro heavy.
Yeah.
Because I was also the former pro and all that stuff like at that time. And now I'm way more macro heavy. Like I talk generally about why is this important or whatever. It's also because of the complicated formats to keep.
You're the mastermind behind it, so you kind of have to give us an overview.
Yeah, or like the points overview of like how many points does someone need, stuff like that. So I try and stay either more macro heavy in terms of that, or in general of like, here's the storyline. Scrub Kill is here, let's just focus on him or whatever. So I went from like micro to macro, but then also when we went to the online shows, the desk changed a ton too, because now our desks are super short. Like they got so short that we began that time, and for a long time we were, all right, let's do a 4-man desk anyway. And then we all realized like there's literally no time.
They were so short this past weekend. We even skipped caster predictions.
Exactly. So
Some
it's like,
players were ready, and we were like, okay, we got to
like,
the
all
match.
right, let's go.
Start
Yeah.
the
So
game.
it's like we went from a 4-man online desk, which is always a little awkward because you don't know who's going to talk next. We do a pretty good job at that, but it's
Yeah.
still hard online,
Oh,
just in general.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you take one person off that, those two people can talk more and like conversate. And so like it turned back into like, all right, you gotta talk a little bit more. But now our desks are so short anyway, because people just want to see the games, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like I've never really pushed against it. Like I'm always for them, like, hey, whatever the fans want, it's fine. I will help to push along a show, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be on camera. Like I've never cared about having the spotlight. I've been the spotlight of a lot of memes in my time, but I've never cared to actually be that spotlight.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe the bus, but besides that, but that was for fun, so whatever. And I wasn't expecting cameras. God damn you, Sis. God damn you, Sis. But yeah, so it's like, so it's been like an evolvement of like where the desk is now, and also when we're at majors, it's a little bit more entertainment focused. Obviously, bringing in T-baits, more entertainment esque, where we'll banter or bicker more and things like that. But you can still bring in numbers here or there, and so I've kind of like dabbled in all three because I've always done bits occasionally, and they're usually just bad dad jokes, but they work well enough.
Uh-huh.
But then you got to bring in that micro occasionally when it's important to, and I think that's the hard part is trying to bring in the. So when is the micro important? So when you bring in those numbers, you can't do it all the time because you get boring. But if you bring it in occasionally, like last year at Worlds, I brought in first killer numbers for like MVP because he was literally number one in everything. So like, yes, I'm gonna repeat this like ad nauseum because why not? But then also the macro, which is funny because at Worlds, the macro means a lot less in terms of points, but then it means everything about what this means for these players. Not necessarily what they're going to do on the field, because we try and analyze that as best we can, but the pros obviously know better than us. And also because we don't have a lot of time on the desk. And also that's more for casters, I feel like, mid-game to point things out because it's a lot easier when you have a visual than when you don't. So I think it's been trying to balance that of like, how do I work around this new desk? Because the only constant we've always had is me on the desk. Like outside of now, like EU shows, I'm not on as much. But like, how do I mold to whatever the desk needs at the time has been.
Yeah, I was gonna say like what's because I mean you kind of answered there. I was gonna ask what the over the years what for you because you've been in such like a relatively similar role the whole time. Instead of swapping around, what you've had a lot more time to either A, feel like you're getting complacent or B, experiment with new things. What's been like the biggest maybe revelation in your position that you've had? And also, do you like that things got a bit more macro and entertainment wise with the desk?
So like, I like the entertainment to a point. I think there's times where we go maybe a little overboard, but that's fine. Like it's, is what it is. Like I can mold to whatever it is, but I think it's more about trying to get whoever's up there comfortable. Because also we've had like new talent that would come on to a desk first, right?
Yeah.
So like T Bates was new, just trying to get them comfortable, and I think it helped that I'm kind of like the Papa Gibbs for our talent group anyway, where I'll take the talent lead role to the esports team. So I'll just try and like make everyone as comfortable as I possibly can first. And that's what I care more about is making sure they do a good job. And then like, then I worry about myself afterwards, which is probably not always the best, but that's how I've always been. Like, I don't care about the spotlight. Like, I don't care about any of that. Like, I don't need to have the funny bit. It just happens like we did a Telestrator, Fireburner, him running with Sizz, and they're like, Gibbs, you have to do this Telestrator. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will do it. But like, I won't volunteer necessarily, which is probably a bad thing. But I mean, like, I don't really care about any of that. So I want to push everyone else forward first, and then I worry about myself. And then it's just, it's just about good storylines of like having good facts that are good enough to be understandable, and that you can say in a very quick moment, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, if you're trying to explain a stat, it's not going to play, right? It's like, oh, here's his EPM for last week. Well, let me explain to you what EPM was. It's like, that's just too much, right?
Yeah.
So it's like trying to find that balance. And I've always tried to find ways to be entertaining, like in my own way, because my humor's like vastly different than maybe a T-based humor, right?
Yeah.
To do that first, and then like always being in charge of the macro, knowing what these teams need to do, and then worry about the player stories as well. And so it's not like about being complacent. It's just about trying to mold to what is needed and then to push everyone else forward. And then I focus on myself last. And sometimes I have to do that in a way where I can't script what I'm going to say anyway. Because
Yeah.
with my speech, it's actually very, very difficult to do like ad reads. Like I just can't do it.
Yeah. You've gotten
so,
like
yeah.
really good at finding like, because you said if you get stuck on a word, you just find another word for it.
Sometimes, or I'll just pause for a second. But I've done probably like 5 times throughout this interview, right? I'll pause for a second and like to try and figure it out. Like right there was one that was smaller,
Yeah.
but it just is what it is, and it's like, and it's gotten worse at times. Like I go through phases where it's like, right now it's actually been terrible. Like last week was actually really bad.
Yeah.
Luckily,
I feel
the
it.
show was over already, so whatever. But even when we're talking in Discord, like talking about stuff, like it was just rough. So slowly getting better, and sometimes it's better to just talk more. And maybe I should do more content on like Twitch and YouTube again to just talk more and get more reps.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been trying to figure that out. But mostly, I just like to try and push our talent to do bigger and better things. Like I never care about a media day to do that bonus thing.
Yeah.
So I'll do it, but I don't care about the spotlight. And if someone wants the spotlight,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to be like, yes, like go for it. But yeah.
That's humble Gibbs. It's because he knows that he doesn't need to do anything to continue to be the most valuable.
I just need. I've been asking for years. I need someone to fan me on the desk, and that's it. That's all.
Do you want some grapes too? I'll get some.
Yeah, right.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, it's just intriguing to me because you haven't been given the variety of roles to understand. Like what was there ever an experiment that you tried with your role that didn't work? That you're like, I'm not going to do that again, or like I need to adjust that.
I think like early on, season 1, it was like I was like really harsh on some people. And I toned that down a bit. I was like, yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh. And again, like I don't mean any of that personally to people. Like when I'm on camera, it's an act. Like
it's a caricature of ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, which everyone has that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Like or like, oh, we're doing too many bits, but that really hasn't happened for me because I usually plan like 1 bit a day at most. So I'm like, I'm not too worried about that. So like I will try and do some micro where I get 2 micro. Maybe, and I'm like, that didn't play well, so I'll try and tone that down or whatever. But besides that, like, it's mostly just trying to talk in a way that makes sense. Because sometimes when I have to change words, it starts getting weird, and all that stuff. So just trying to focus on my speech. Like, if I didn't have my speech issue, man, Leaf, I'd be like the best talent there is, man. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, so trying to figure that out, and then so I focus on that first, my speech stuff, and then I worry about the other stuff after. But I think generally I'm doing a good job. So like, I don't know. Like I still work on it, but it's just different.
It's good. No, it's interesting because I find with the tics, like the motor tics that I have, is like there are weeks where it's just worse. And it's so infuriating. Like it angers you just like how bad it. So I wonder if do you find it's the more you talk about it too? Like if you're consciously talking about it, does it get worse?
If I'm thinking about it, absolutely. Yeah. Like if I felt like I had it's like one word was bad, but if I harp on that in my head, like, so I have to go back to like I do not give a shit mentality, or like don't write a script, because if I write a script, I know what word I have to say later. Yeah. But if I just say it, where I'm like, here's the info I know that's in my head that I need to say at some point, so then it's a lot easier. But
yeah, I will say that's the one thing I've told you this before too. It's the one thing that I learned from you was to not give a shit. Like that actually helped me so much, just in general and in my career.
It helps in the online world for sure too.
Yeah,
but yeah,
you have to step back. Okay, now we've actually reached, I think, your heart out.
Yes.
So we're
pick up my kid from the bus.
We're gonna get you. Now I can finally get rid of him.
Sorry, I wanted 20 more minutes.
No, that was great. I loved it. There's actually even more stuff I want to talk about now, but it'll have to be another time. Gibbs, thank you so much for joining. I very much appreciate that my show was worthy of one of your terrible dad green screen jokes. And then you brought it here.
I just made you $1 million. All right.
$1 million.
Just at Scott on Twitter.
Yeah. I have been looking for sponsors, so maybe it'll be toilet paper. I guess it's indicative of the content here. It's all crap, right?
You said it, I didn't. Right?
Okay. Anyways, thanks, Gibbs, for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, but I just want to say thank you for joining.
Thank you, Leaf. I had a lot of fun.
All right. Well, you guys know what to do. Leave a comment below. Hit the subscribe button. Do it for Gibbs. Don't do it for me. Do it for Gibbs. Hit the like buttons, of course. And if you're listening on Spotify, well, of course, you're missing out on the discussion happening in the comments below. I always see a lot of great comments down there. I'm reading every single one of them. And I appreciate everyone that's joining us on this journey. And again, suggestions, if you have any guests that you would like to see on the show, always like to hear them down below. But we got the father. We peaked now. I don't know where we go from here. We'll find out how to do it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.